Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. Today we're here to talk about the 1994 Fantastic Four movie. However, before it starts, I wanted to give you a little bit of context for why this video is going to be presented the way it is. If you've been here before, you know that typically my video reviews show footage of the movie that I'm talking about. However, the first version of this video was taken down by Constantine Films, the original distributors and producers of the film, due to the fact that the film was never officially released. And with the new film releasing just this last weekend, Constantine is under heavy pressure to remove any video footage they find of the original film on the internet. And it was because of this that they issued a copyright strike to my channel, which, if you're not familiar, a strike is a big deal. 3 strikes, your channel gets deleted. Now, you can fight a strike through legal reasons, but I currently don't have the means to do it, nor the confidence, even though reviews are typically fair use. So instead, they provided me with contact information for Constantine Films, and I was able to speak with them, and eventually we came to the conclusion that I would remove the version of the video that had footage in it, and they would release the strike from my channel, which is very courteous of them to do. A lot of copyright holders won't do that. But again, the conversation I had with them was great. They were very understanding, and they were also passionate, talking about how, like, yeah, they're hopeful the film can be seen someday. But at least currently, technically, those of us who have seen it illegally. So they have to take down any videos with footage. But reviews are fair use. And then I asked, and they said that I could upload the audio of my review, but I cannot upload the video of the review. So, of course, since I can't use any footage from the movie, I am just using some promotional images, which means if you haven't seen the movie, you might need to use your imagination a little bit and listen to what I'm describing. But I think we can make it work for the situation we have to deal with. Hopefully someday I'll be able to re-upload the proper version of this review, but until then, this is what we have. So for the purpose of this video, you'll see a lot of promotional images since those are officially released and can be seen by the public. But again, I just wanted to give you a little bit of context on why this video looks the way it does. So without further ado, let's get into it, and thank you for watching. Okay, so here's the thing. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking it out if you're new. At the time of recording this, we are just about a month away from 2024's The Fantastic Four First Steps. And in anticipation for this movie, it got me thinking that the past 4 Fantastic Four movies really haven't been looked upon kindly. And yes, you heard me correct, the last 4 Fantastic Four movies. There are, of course, the 2 from the early 2000s and 2015's Fant4stic. But some of you might not know about the Fantastic Four from 1994. And that's simply because it was never released. There is an entire documentary made about the garbage fire that was this movie, so I'm not going to get too far into it. All you need to know is that they made this movie simply to keep the rights to the Fantastic Four, because when Marvel was in its bankruptcy era, they just sold off all the rights to everybody, and then they were all over the place for how many years? And so they made this movie super cheap. This had a reported $1 million budget, which is nothing compared to the giant $300 million blockbusters that we make today. And so they filmed it, they edited it together, and then the studio trashed it. Thankfully, work cuts of the film surfaced online in recent years and have circulated just about everywhere. As you can see, they're not perfect and there might be a bit of a quality issue, but it's better than nothing, and it allows us to see the final product in some form. And so I sat down to watch this movie because I was originally going to do a video where I say something nice about all 4 of the old Fantastic Four movies. But then I actually fell so far in love with this movie, I just decided to make a whole video talking about this one. Yes, this movie is cheap as hell and was just made to keep the rights. The script is not great, but the movie itself is pretty campy, and I kinda love it for that. It is over the top in all the best ways. So, for today's video, I'd like to go through the 1994 Fantastic Four and just talk about how fun of a movie it is and why you should probably check it out yourself. So, when we open the movie, Reed and Victor are college students looking to harness the power of the approaching comet known as the Colossus. They don't really go too far into it. It's the typical sci-fi plot where they're going to harness the power and create a new clean energy source. Meanwhile, Sue and Johnny are children who live in the same boarding house as Reed. And yeah, this is again one of the first crazy and weird things about this movie is the age difference between Sue and Reed, who we all know end up together. This is something from the older comics. This movie was obviously made before they retconned. Modern day comics have made them much closer in age. But in this instance, she is literally a child and he is in college. Like, even if we want to say, oh, it's his freshman year college, that still would make him like 18 at least, while the actress playing Sue, is 13. So that's the age I'm going to go with. I think Reed is even older than 18 in this scene, which again just makes it really creepy when they get together later on. That being said, Johnny being so young does drill in the horror of the fact that they take Johnny with them up to space later in the movie. You took a minor to space with you, and now he lights on fire. Like, that is something so dark and twisted that's not touched on in any of the other movies. In all of the other adaptations, Johnny is always aged up to be an adult too. So, while I think Johnny being young works for the horror, implied horror, because obviously this movie doesn't get into it, the implied horror of this experimentation, Sue is weird because she has her romantic relationship with Reed. And Ben is just kind of there. We literally learn nothing about Ben until it's time to go up into space. Unfortunately, on the night of the comet, Reed and Victor's experiment goes horribly wrong, resulting in Victor getting Kentucky fried by the machine, which he appears to die from. And I know that Reed is usually depicted as the smartest man in the world. He's the cold, calculating scientist who can sometimes be emotionally removed. But this scene is crazy. His best friend, Victor, just got fried. And he sits there and does this. I don't know. I'm not the smartest man in the world. And I don't know about you, but I would probably be screaming and calling 911 if I just watched my best friend get fried. But don't think about it too hard, because then we skip ahead 10 years later, and the four of them are off to space to observe the comet again. Unfortunately, the diamond power source for their rocket that would protect them from the radiation has been stolen by a villain known as the Jeweler. And I immediately clocked that the Jeweler is very clearly supposed to be the recurring Fantastic Four villain, Mole Man. He's a quick one-off character that the team fights constantly and never really serves as a major threat. He's usually a side villain. And what do you know, when I looked it up, it turns out that, yes, he was supposed to be Mole Man, but they did not have the rights to Mole Man, so they made up the original character of the Jeweler, who is a man who loves to steal jewelry and lives underground with a bunch of homeless people. Definitely not the Mole Man. And just reinforcing how cheap this movie is, I love that he steals this diamond flawlessly, and the only thing he has to do to get it is not step on the laser grid that surrounds it. And of course, while this diamond heist goes off without a hitch, the Jeweler falls for Ben Grimm's usual romance, Alicia Masters. And so we have a bit of a Princess Peach, Mario, and Bowser situation, where Alicia has fallen for Ben, which is crazy, because he talked to her one time, and that one time was him knocking her down the stairs. How romantic. And so the Jeweler, again being the Bowser in this situation, sends his whole gang to kidnap Alicia Masters. Now, I am not trying to be ableist in any kind of way, but I must remind you, if you're not familiar with the character, Alicia is typically a blind woman, as she is in this movie. It is kind of crazy in this movie that the jeweler sends his entire gang to go capture this one woman. But unfortunately, the team doesn't know that that's happened yet, as they're heading up to space, where the rocket literally explodes in space. Like, there is no, oh, they come back down and they're being experimented on. We see the special effect to where the rocket literally explodes. And yet we cut to the team on Earth, where they realize something's changed. And I have to say that I think the effects for their powers are awesome. I am a big sucker for practical effects or good, cheap CGI. And so the way Sue is literally just a green screen or a fade effect. Meanwhile, Reed is a combination of some CGI with also it seems to just be some tubing or piping inside a long shirt arm. And of course, everybody's going to talk about how horrifying Ben's rubber costume is. But I think it's actually pretty impressive. Like, look at the way the lips move. That's pretty fluid for the 90s on a cheap $1 million budget. And then Johnny is a whole mixed mess of CG fire that's either layered on top of him or some crazy CG that we'll see in the third act. So after they land and have this moment to figure out their powers, Doom, yes, Dr. Doom, and his goons capture them and take them to Latveria. Doom, it turns out, has been watching the entire time with his two goons who have crazy, terrible accents. He's done this in the hopes to extract the power of the comet from the Fantastic Four's DNA. Can I just say that Dr. Doom is such a treat in this movie? He is eating it up. First of all, his costume is interesting because it is quite literally his comic book costume. Granted, it's not quite movie level. Like I said, that's where I said I feel like this feels like a made-for-TV movie. His costume's somewhere between Party City and perfect. On top of that, he's very quirky, sensual, and sassy. Doom is constantly moving his hands and gesturing. And with that, because this is a work print, so I'm not sure if this would have carried over into the final version of the film, but you can literally hear the clacking of Doom's gauntlets as he moves every part of his body / his fingers. On top of that, all of his dialogue is literally muffled like this because he's talking through the mask. Again, I don't know if in a finalized version they would have ADR'd that in, but it just adds to the craziness as he walks around touching all of his goons and making funny jokes. And I have to assume that all of this extravagant movement and body language is to try to make up for the lack of eyes or facial movement due to the mask. It becomes really hard to connect with anybody or express any kind of emotion without your eyes or face at all. And while they're there, even though we, the audience, already had the crash landing scene that establishes their powers, Doom has one of his scientists establish the powers of the Fantastic Four in a very cute and fun scene. It feels very early comic booky how they kind of do it on accident / their powers stress this doctor out. And speaking of comic book nonsense, they then decide to make their escape. And overall, the slapstick is very fun in this sequence. Again, this is basically a 90s made-for-TV movie. You are not going to get John Wick level fight scenes. Instead, it's a bunch of practical effects and crazy camera movements in order to keep the fight going. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm laughing just picturing it in my head. Because specifically this camera spin that you're seeing on screen, I did not do that in post. That is what the movie does to just illustrate Ben knocking these guys out. You have Reed tripping people, which again, hokey thing that they would do in like the cartoons. You have Sue turning invisible while Johnny's throwing fireballs, and Ben is literally walking through walls. Again, I cannot stress enough, I love the practical effects with Ben. I know he's kind of scary, but it's kind of cool that they just have all of these cheap, styrofoam walls for him to walk through. So at this point in the movie, they've escaped Dr. Doom, who they just met, and granted, nobody questioned who he was or anything. He literally just said, I'm going to take your powers, and they escaped. And now they're back in the Baxter building where Johnny, Reed, and Sue decide to keep their powers. And of course, Ben doesn't like that idea because he's a giant rock monster. It's his typical outcast story. So he leaves the Baxter building to go have like some me time / his homeless arc. I don't know when he had time to do all of these things we see in this montage because it seems like it's only a couple hours. But eventually he's approached by one of the jeweler's men and goes with them down into the sewer. And can I just say that Ben being accepted by the homeless is actually an interesting angle, since they are also those looked down upon and turned away from society. That being said, I am probably looking into this way more than anyone behind the movie probably did. But it was just a nice connection that I had made while watching. But Ben's time with the jeweler doesn't last long as Doom attacks, looking to steal the diamond from the beginning of the movie. And during this sequence, it is so funny because the jeweler takes Alicia hostage, and he does the whole, don't come any closer or I'll kill her. And how does Doom respond to that? By saying, I don't care, I don't know this woman. Like, fair enough. I guess, why would Doom care about this random woman? And so him being so big and bad scares the jeweler off, so then he takes Alicia hostage, and that's when Ben has to step in. And ironically enough, Alicia's love for Ben makes him go soft, which you'd think it'd actually just make him get harder, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know why they did this, because it never comes back again. He doesn't decide to be normal for Alicia at the end of the movie, or I can't even tell you if Ben's ever did this. I'm not the biggest Fantastic Four comic reader, but I've never seen an instance where Ben can turn back to human at will. So since he couldn't take on Doom by himself, Ben rejoins the gang and they all set out to go after Doom. But before they go, Reed realizes that Victor Von Doom, his college best friend, science partner, who knows how much farther back that relationship goes, is Dr. Doom from recognizing his handwriting. Which is hilarious. Like I said, I guess, why would you think your best friend is this evil man named Dr. Doom? But at the same time, I would also question, I know a Dr. Doom. And so, yes, him figuring it out from the handwriting is very funny. So they pack up and head to Latveria for one final fight, where we see some matchups. Of course, you have Reed versus Doom, which is the iconic rivalry. And during this fight, Doom whips out his little acrylic nails, which I don't know what he thinks are going to do against Reed, seeing as Reed's body can literally morph and change as it needs in order to avoid damage. Like, this man in comic books has literally absorbed bullets because of his stretchy skin. And again, the fight's very funny as he has his little acrylic nails, while the practical, big, long Mr. Fantastic arms are swinging around at him. And eventually, Doom gets knocked off the edge, hanging from the balcony of his castle. And this is, of course, your classic scene where, the hero offers their hand to save them, but the villain kills themselves. And so, frankly, Doom killing himself out of spite is very accurate, but also so funny. But obviously, he's not dead, because you see the little finger twitch, because we're definitely going to get a sequel to this, right? Meanwhile, Doom had a giant super laser pointed at New York that Johnny has to flame on and chase after. And yes, I did just laugh while recording that because, again, I'm envisioning that crazy CG creation. And while those two are occupied stopping Doom and his laser, Ben and Sue fight the rest of the goons, because I guess who else are they going to fight in this scenario, and save Alicia. And basically, yeah, with the laser taken care of, Doom killing himself, and Alicia saved, they all live happily ever after. And this is where, again, because it's the end of the movie, we have to hook everyone up, and all the romance is so bad at the end here. Like, you have Alicia who expresses that she's fallen in love with Ben, and again, the only thing she knows him from is when he knocked her down the stairs that one time. And then she heard his voice in the sewer when Doom kidnapped her. But yes, sure, she loves him and Ben loves her. And I think Reed and Sue have maybe shared one scene together where they're adults in this entire movie. And they just kind of fall in love, and now they're getting married because we have to do the Fantastic Four wedding. That's iconic. That being said, of course, the movie does get one last chuckle out of me as that ridiculous practical arm waves out the sunroof of the limo. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 1994 Roger Corman, The Fantastic Four. It's not perfect in any way. It's actually pretty bad. It is such a basic, clearly no knowledge of the comics story. But I still think it would have been a great TV special or something sent direct to VHS or DVD. Like, can you really tell me this was worse than any of the other stuff they were putting out, like Generation X? Which you can go watch us react to over on my friend Phil with 1L's channel.
You've been circumcised.
Cutting his hair.
What the fuck?
So like I said at the start of the video, the cheese is very good. It's over the top, ridiculous campiness that's surrounded by actually pretty interesting practical effects. That it leaves me at the end of the day saying that I highly recommend you go watch it for yourself. Especially if you can get a group of friends to sit down and watch it together. I'm sure you'll have a great time. I know copies of the movie have been being taken down a lot recently, I assume because they're trying to get this thing off the internet before the new film comes out. But it will be pretty easy to find if you simply Google the title of the movie plus 1994. So with that being said, let me know if you've watched this movie before and what you think of it, or if you plan to watch it now after seeing this video. If you liked what you saw here and want to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when that next one's coming. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.